Well, I'm not helping things, I guess. You know, we all talk about how overexposed the Dallas Cowboys are, and I'm not a Dallas Cowboys fan, but they make a major move, and I come on here to make a video about it, so I guess I'm part of the problem. But this is big NFL news. All around, this is big NFL news. I feel like I do need to comment on it, or anybody who has interest in the NFL as a whole needs to be interested in this development. So, for those of you who don't know, ESPN has reported, and it looks like other sources are starting to report, that Terrell Owens has been released by the Dallas Cowboys. Now, in an earlier video I made, I was pro releasing Terrell Owens. So let's talk about that real quick. When I said that, I was under the impression that cutting him would save $9 million on the cap this year, money that can be used to re-sign DeMarcus Ware or possibly pick up a free agent. I was wrong about that. As it turns out, cutting Terrell Owens actually costs like $1 million more than it would have to keep Terrell Owens. So basically, the Cowboys spent money to cut Terrell Owens, so they lose money, they lose his production. Okay, so we know the reason cannot be money, because the Cowboys' window to win is right now. They can't be thinking, let's cut Terrell Owens now so we can save money in 2 years. No. They need to win now. They're built to win now. Also, when I said that, I said several times that Terrell Owens was not the receiver he used to be. There were 20 receivers in the NFL as good or better than him, and he had no right to think of himself as an elite receiver because he wasn't anymore. Now, various people I've talked to have disagreed with that. A lot of Cowboys fans put the blame of his subpar statistics last year. You know, he didn't break 70 catches, he barely broke 1,000 yards, he had like 10 touchdowns, he had solid but unspectacular stats. A lot of people blame Jason Garrett for that, and you know, that's fair. If that's true, if it's true that Jason Garrett was to blame for Terrell Owens' subpar stats last year, opposed to Terrell Owens declining with age, then he is still probably a top 10, top 15 receiver in the league, somewhere up there. So, if you assume that is true, they didn't release him because his talents are declining. That doesn't make sense either. Another reason why they might have cut Terrell Owens is they like Roy Williams a lot, which I don't think that makes any sense either. Roy Williams did nothing last year, and also I have seen that Jason Garrett does not know how to use a possession receiver. Roy Williams is a possession receiver. Last year, Jason Garrett tried to use Roy Williams like he was a speed receiver, and it didn't work. Roy Williams needs to run routes like Michael Irvin did. He can't be a pure downfield threat, and I don't know if Tony Romo knows how to use a possession receiver. So I'm not bought into the Roy Williams bandwagon yet. I think he's a great player. I just don't know if Dallas is going to be able to use him like that. Another reason why they might cut T.O. is the chemistry issue. You know, him being the well-known head case that he is, etc., etc. You know, I'll say this as a guy who really doesn't care about the Cowboys. I don't really care about T.O. If anything, I don't really like T.O., but what has he done in Dallas that's bad? All the negative things he's done in Dallas, you know, calling for the ball, screaming at people, they've all been very minor, contained. They were over after a couple days. Nothing significant. I mean, sometimes he yells about not getting the ball enough. Who cares? If he doesn't do that for weeks and weeks on end, who cares? So I don't think that can be it. He wasn't nearly as bad as he was in San Francisco or Philadelphia. I mean, the worst thing Terrell Owens did as a Cowboy was drop all those passes in 2006. And he only did that because he was playing with a broken finger. So, the only thing I can think of that makes sense to me, because when you think about it, Jerry Jones, to cut T.O. would be swallowing his pride. He would have to swallow his pride because he loved T.O., he signed T.O., he endorsed T.O. every step of the way. So he would actually have to admit that he was wrong to cut T.O., and he doesn't like to admit that he was wrong. So there's one last option here for me. Basically, even if you don't buy the stuff that ESPN was selling late in the year, there were things said between Terrell Owens and Jason Garrett that may not be repairable. You know, Terrell Owens would insinuate that he didn't like the offense that Jason Garrett was running, that he thought the offense was too predictable, that he thought the offense was bland or stale or whatever. And he's probably right. But it's entirely possible that in the exchanges that followed those comments, eventually it came to the point where Terrell Owens and Jason Garrett had to go, either you get rid of him or you get rid of me. So the Cowboys had to make the choice. Do I keep Terrell Owens or do I keep Jason Garrett? And they decided to keep Jason Garrett, which I don't necessarily agree with. I don't like Jason Garrett much at all, but that is the only thing that makes sense to me, that there was a damage in the relationship between Jason Garrett and Terrell Owens that was irreparable, and one of them had to go. There was no other option. No other explanation for this makes sense to me, so there. As for what's next, I think this move in the short term will hurt the Cowboys. They will miss his production because unless they sign Torrey Holt, they're not going to get his production back. As for T.O., I could see him going to the Jets, maybe the Vikings. I don't know, maybe we could use him up here, I think, so well, not really now that we have Hushmanzada, but I was looking through the list of teams and there really aren't that many options. Ironically, I think the best place for him would be Philadelphia, but be damned if that happens, so we'll see where this goes.